Hello retro fans, welcome to another episode of C64 Customs, and this time I'm not going to talk about C64 repairs or modding, but this time I'm going to talk about a repair of a Nintendo Entertainment System and short NES. So basically in the title we had 2 times Nintendo, but anyway it's well, a well-known abbreviation, I think, of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Anyway, so what's the issue with this NES? Well, actually, I started this project quite a while ago as some kind of help for a friend. He was looking for RGB mod of the NES, and in order to do so, we have to put two of the main ICs on sockets. And while doing so, I had a problem that the holes at the PCB of the NES are pretty small, and therefore the desoldering of those ICs was a little bit tricky. And while putting back the IC onto the socket, I broke one leg of it off, and therefore today I'm trying to fix this. Move on to my desk, and as you can see, it's an classic NES, which has seen some better times. So perhaps I'm going to spend some time on the case as well. But today I'd like to work on the inside of this little machine, and as you can see, the main IC, the PPU, has been removed already. And we are going to work on this part today, so let's make some space. And as already mentioned, this is the candidate I'm talking about, and here we can see that it is missing one leg. And as I said, this happens during the removal of the IC, so the holes of this board of this PCB are pretty small. And I have desoldered this from the bottom of the board, and some of those legs had some still some solder material on it. They were still connected to the board, and while pulling off the IC, I stretched one leg a little bit, and while I was trying to fix this, I simply broke it off. So therefore it is highly recommendable that for projects like this, you really spend some more caution to the desoldering process. And what I have done for the second NES is basically I worked from both sides. So I had this on my desk like this, and I was using the desoldering gun on this side, and I was using a normal I'm sorry, soldering iron on the other side, in just to keep sure to melt all the solder material properly and to suck it through those little holes here. And this has worked very well for the second unit, and therefore this is basically my learning for devices like this, that it is a little bit more challenging compared to standard C64 hardware. And as you can see, there are a lot of areas with a huge copper material on it, and those areas, they require a lot of heat. Not so much on the bottom of this, but it's really on the top of this. And you can see that even 4 of those pins are connected to each other, and it's kind of pain in the butt to get this desoldered properly. Anyway, so much about how this happened. And now let's talk about how to fix this. And my approach is basically not developed by myself. This is something you can find on the internet, on YouTube quite frequently. And the main idea is to put this IC onto a socket and remove a small part of the housing of the case, whatever we want to call this, and to use some kind of a wire and solder this to the socket of the socket we are going to use underneath. You can do this directly on the board itself, but usually I prefer to put this onto a second socket so that we can use this as some kind of a unit, and then we put this onto the board, and then this is hopefully going to work very well. So, and as mentioned, as a very first step, we have to remove some of the material here from the socket. And in order to do so, I need some glasses because it's some small stuff and it makes some good usage of some optical enhancement systems to see what I'm doing here. And for the purpose of this exercise, I have selected using this so-called Dremel, and I picked a very small kind of a grinder or whatever we want to call this, and because we want to remove just a tiny bit of material. I mean, you can see it here. There is at least some metal left. There's some small shiny part in it, and we just need to gain access to about 1 mil in addition to have some let's say space for soldering. So let's see how this is going to work. This is going to be a little bit loud, so I may dim the volume a little bit so that it's not going to, kill your ears. And I may use my lens to make it even a little bit better in terms of visibility. And this will bring some additional light to it as well. So. Have a quick check how it looks like. So we still need some more material off. So now is the part where it becomes a little bit tricky to see what we are doing, and usually I take a knife like this and try to remove some of the dust in order to see how deep we are already. So I think we're not there yet, so I have to drill a little bit deeper. So as you may can see, there is already some shine, and this means we have reached basically the required depth. And the thing is, we really have to be very carefully because we have to work very carefully because this metal is not that thick, and if you grind off too much, then there will be no chance to solder anything to it, and therefore I'm going to use this knife to remove the remaining parts of it. And it looks like I'm almost a bit too deep. But hopefully there will be enough material left. So I think this should work. Let's see whether we can get some solder material on it. I'm still having some issues with my soldering station. I still can't figure out what's going to be a possible solution for it. It is losing the temperature reading in the middle of the job, and then it refuses to heat. So it looks like I got some soldering material on those metal parts. And yeah, I'm a bit too deep, so I lost part of the leg. But hopefully this is going to work. Let's see whether we can get a wire onto it. And for this purpose I'm using an old resistor because this material works pretty well. It fits perfectly in those IC sockets, and we just have to bend this here a little bit, and then hopefully we can get this soldered properly. So, going to need so much. Gun it is. So it looks like a little hook. This should fit into our kind of chamber. Now let's try to solder it. It's a bit hard to see. But I think this could work. Due to the very small area, we do not have a chance to pull the leg to see whether there's a good connection, because there wouldn't be that much resistance. So the only thing we can do right now is testing it. And this has indeed some troubles, because especially older NES tend to have issues with those cartridge connector. And I tried my best to clean this already, and there's indeed a second trick you can use, and we have to do this for one of the cartridges I want to use anyway, because the NES is doing a check whether this is a original cartridge or not, and if not, then usually it refuses to start. And unfortunately the NES has no boot screen or something like this, so if you want to run this without a cartridge, we are not going to see anything at all. So you're not really sure whether the NES is broken, your cartridge is broken, or if there's just a connection issue or something like this. But there's one thing that can help a little bit, and this is the reason why I have added a socket to this IC already, because this IC is doing the cartridge check. And if we're going to kind of remove the fourth leg of this IC, then we can trick the NES to run even non-Nintendo cartridges. And most people simply break the leg, but I decided to keep it and just to bend it a little bit outwards. So we have to be very carefully, because we learned that NES legs are breaking off very easily. And then we put it back, and it basically looks like this. So you have to find an angle where we have some light. So basically the leg is pointing outwards and it is very dark. Let's see if we can have some more light. Perhaps this can help. So I think now it's a bit better. Now we can see that the leg is pointing outwards and has no connection to the NES PCB anymore. And this should help starting even older cartridges with connection problems. So then what we are still missing is the socket, which we have to bring onto our board before we can add the other IC. So I quickly go and solder this back to the system. Just have to drink some tea. So basically that's all we have to do. Unfortunately we can't check whether the soldering went through the hole, but usually with those sockets it's not going to be so tricky. Just have to remove as much uncertainty as possible, because we're going to test something that's not really certain that it is going to work, and then we add this to a system where we are not sure whether this is working at all, and then we have this connector issue, and therefore, well, a lot of question marks. So let's move this away from here, and let's put it back into no, we have to add the CPU first, or the PPU. So fits pretty tight. Here we go. Fortunately, we have enough space in the system to do things like this. So it's not going to add any problems. And now we just have to rewire everything. Just wondering about the position of those wires. Anyway. Other way around. No. Yep, this way. Okay. So now we have to add the connector of our cartridge system. And then we have to add some power to the system as well as video. video is going to be here, and audio is going to be here, and then we have to switch to video, I think. Or we're going to use, let's see whether it's working. So, oh, another fucked up viewport. Something I haven't figured out what's going to be needed to make this more stable. Anyway, so, and we're going to need a cartridge, and I had a stack of cartridges here. Let's start with Dr. Mario. And let's see if we can have some picture. So there's a red LED, it's not blinking, that's basically a good sign, and here we go. It works out of the box already. I'm pretty impressed. So this is common if you release the cartridge, so therefore we're going to need our shelf, but shouldn't it remain in this position by itself? The tray is missing. Yeah, good point. And that's here. So let's get it out. And put the tray back. So we may have to add a few screws to it, but it should work like this as well. Fingers crossed, it's working again. Okay, that's a contact issue. So let's test the controller. Oh, it looks like I really have to work on the contacts. Oh, wrong button. Or I may have to add some screws to it. But as you can see, the system is pretty stable. It's a contact issue. I really have to clean the contacts. But let's see if we can have. So I think A should start the game. No, start is going to start the game. We should have turned the pill in a different direction, then we would have finished the level earlier. But anyway, so I'm quite happy with the progress. And it's really nice to see that the system is working besides some contact issues. And that's probably something I will address right now. And then I can show you what's usually going to fix this. So it can be, it's possible that we have an issue with the cartridge. So this is very likely for older cartridges. And this reminds me that I was going to order a special screwdriver to open the cartridge in order to get access to the contacts here. And the next thing is, if we're going to remove this tray once again and remove these contacts. As you can see on the back of this thingy, let's move it to a different view. These metal contacts tend to have some kind of corrosion or something like this. And this is the very same for the contacts inside those connectors. Usually not that much on this part, because this is attached to the board, most of the time at least, but quite often on the top of this where the cartridge is connected to. And there are different approaches. Some people try to get all those contacts out of it and clean it, but this is very time intensive, and you may break some of them. One simple approach is to use very fine sanding paper. That's 240, and this has been used already as well. And then just move this out of the way a bit to have some more space. And then you put this into your connector, and then you move it up and down a little bit. Then you can turn it around. Move it up and down. And then we have to clean this. You can blow in it, or you can use compressed air or something like this. And what often helps a little bit as well is if we're going to use some contact spray, but just a very small amount. So this should be already enough. This usually contains some anti-corrosion stuff, and usually trying to make it better in terms of electricity. And then we can put this on and off a couple of times, and this will clean the cartridge contacts as well. Some people recommend to cook this whole thing to get rid of excessive dirt or something like this. I think we are not going to dig so deep into this topic today. Let's try to put it back. And see if we can start the game a bit better this time. And I may have to add all the screws as well. And then this thingy should work even better. So let's move it back into the middle of the desk and see if we have some better picture this time. Yes, indeed. Very nice, very nice. So I'm really happy with the result. Looks like we got a PPU thingy fixed, and even the cartridges are working fine. Aha. Oh, that was not very smart indeed. So let's try to fix this. So now we got rid of this and we made it. So, and what I want to show you as well is one reason for making this cartridge detection fix. And this is basically a game I have bought quite a while ago. It's called Panic Dizzy, and it's not an original Nintendo game. And this game is not running on unmodified NES. And therefore it was required to make this fix anyway. And it's a very interesting thing, and I'm not sure whether I have mentioned this in some of my videos already, but I think I posted it on Twitter once. And that's basically a new game for the NES, and that's very interesting. It is a bit confusing, a bit complicated, but let's see if I can figure out what was going to be the main purpose of the game. So that's probably not the right approach. So I think you have to put them side by side. Oops, wrong. Yes, okay, it works like this. And now we have to do it like this, I think. Yes. So I guess you already figured out how this is going to work. And it takes some time to get used to this, but yeah, it is working quite fine. It's really nice to see that there are new games developed for the NES still, and that they are even working on a little bit beaten up NES like mine. And I'm not going to bother you with longer gameplay sessions anymore. That's all what I have for this episode. I hope you had some fun, you had some learning about how to approach a repair like this. And basically, as usual, thank you very much for watching. And if you have not done so yet, feel free to subscribe to my channel so that you're not going to miss any new episode, and feel free to join the channel membership in order to get access to some exclusive material like preparation videos and some live sessions where we can talk about the next episodes, where you can bring in your ideas and your wishes, what you want to see covered by my channel. And I highly appreciate any input, any feedback, so feel free to use the comment section. And if you want to as well, then feel free to support me on Patreon. Thank you very much in advance, and I wish you a very nice Christmas time. And then, well, see you for the next episode. Bye bye.